11 o'clock at night. Seattle's waterfront district glittered in the darkness like scattered diamonds on black velvet. The air carried the salt smell of Puget Sound mixed with coffee from the late-shift roasters still working in Pioneer Square. Most of the city slept. Most of the city dreamed peaceful dreams. Victoria Sterling was about to die. The black Mercedes S-Class sedan rocketed down Alaskan Way at 65 miles per hour. Inside the luxury vehicle, panic had replaced the usual smell of Italian leather and expensive perfume. Victoria's hands gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles had gone white as bone. Her blonde hair, usually perfect, flew wild around her face. The $40,000 Chanel suit she'd worn to the investor dinner now clung to her body, soaked with terror sweat. In the backseat, 7-year-old Zoe screamed. The dashboard had become a Christmas tree of warning lights. Red, orange, all of them screaming the same message. Brake failure, steering malfunction, system error. The car's computer brain had gone insane, and Victoria Sterling, CEO of a billion-dollar medical device company, had exactly zero control. "Mommy," Zoe's voice cut through the night like broken glass. "Mommy, I'm scared." Victoria tried to speak, tried to comfort her daughter, but the words stuck in her throat because ahead, rushing toward them at impossible speed, she could see the concrete barrier at the end of the road. Beyond it, nothing but black water and certain death. The speedometer climbed, 70 miles per hour, 75. This was how it ended. This was how the Sterling legacy died. Mother and daughter together, smashed against concrete or drowned in the icy Sound. The irony burned like acid in Victoria's mind. Her company built safety devices, medical monitors that were supposed to save lives, and here she was, about to die because the very technology her father had invented had failed. Had failed or had been sabotaged. But there was no time to think about that now. No time for anything but the barrier getting closer, closer, 5 seconds away, 4 seconds, 3. Victoria closed her eyes and did something she hadn't done since childhood. She prayed. "Someone help us, please, someone." The universe, it seemed, was listening. Marcus Jackson heard the screaming engine before he saw the car. He'd been closing up the auto shop, Jackson's Automotive Repair, a small independent garage wedged between a closed coffee roaster and a marine supply store. The shop wasn't much. 3 bays, fluorescent lights that buzzed, concrete floors stained with 30 years of motor oil. But it was honest work, and honest work was all Marcus had left. He just locked the front door when the sound hit him. High-performance engine. Redlining, no brake squeal, that was wrong, that was very wrong. His head snapped toward Alaskan Way. The Mercedes came into view like a bullet, headlights blazing, fishtailing slightly as it rocketed toward the waterfront barrier. Marcus's brain, trained by 8 years as a Marine hospital corpsman and another 3 testing medical devices, processed the scene in microseconds. Vehicle out of control, 2 occupants visible, adult driver, child passenger, impact in approximately 4 seconds, survivability at current speed, 0%. Most people would have frozen. Most people would have watched, horrified, as the tragedy unfolded. Most people would have pulled out their phones to record the aftermath for social media. Marcus Jackson was not most people. He moved. No thought, no hesitation, pure muscle memory from 100 combat situations where thinking meant dying. His legs pumped, work boots pounding pavement, closing the distance between himself and the runaway vehicle. 40 feet, 30, 20. The Mercedes was doing 80 now. Marcus's hand shot out, grabbed the tire iron he'd left on his tool cart. Heavy steel, 2 feet long, perfect. He sprinted harder, Harder than he'd run since Afghanistan. Harder than he'd run since the day his wife died and he couldn't reach the hospital in time. 10 feet from the car, the barrier loomed ahead, 2 seconds to impact. Marcus Jackson jumped. His body hit the Merced's hood with a metallic bang that echoed across the waterfront. The hot metal burned through his Carhartt jacket, but he didn't feel it. Didn't feel anything but the tire iron in his hand and the absolute certainty of what he needed to do. The windshield was reinforced glass, expensive, designed to survive minor impacts. Marcus swung the tire iron like a battle axe, the glass spiderwebbed. Once, twice, 3 times, and it shattered inward, safety glass raining into the car like diamond rain. Inside, Victoria Sterling stared at him with eyes gone wide as moons. She was screaming something, but Marcus couldn't hear over the engine roar and the rushing wind. Didn't matter. He could see everything he needed to see. Her foot pumping the brake pedal. Nothing happening. Her hands yanking the steering wheel. Nothing happening. The car's computer had gone rogue and she was just a passenger in her own vehicle. 1 second to impact. Marcus shoved his arm through the broken windshield. Glass bit into his forearm, drawing blood, but he barely noticed. His hand found what it was looking for. The emergency brake lever, yellow plastic handle, tucked under the dashboard where most drivers never thought to look. His fingers closed around it, pulled. The mechanical brake, separate from the electronic system, engaged with a metallic screech that sounded like the world ending. The Merced's rear wheels locked. The car went into a slide, rotating sideways, burning rubber, filling the air with the smell of tortured tires. 60 miles per hour, 50, 40. The concrete barrier rushed at them. Marcus could see every crack in the concrete now, could count the rust stains from the rebar inside. 30 miles per hour, 20. The Mercedes hit the barrier sideways. The impact threw Marcus off the hood. He flew through the air, hit the pavement, rolled. Years of Marine combat training took over. Tuck and roll. Distribute the impact. Protect the head and spine. He came up in a crouch, ready to fight or run, adrenaline singing in his blood. The Merced sat 3 feet from the edge, one headlight shattered, driver's side door crumpled against the barrier. Steam hissed from the damaged radiator. The engine had finally died. But inside the car, Marcus could see movement. They were alive. He ran to the passenger side, yanked the rear door open. The little girl in the backseat stared at him with huge brown eyes. Mixed race, maybe 7 years old, wearing a pink dress that was now rumpled and twisted. Her face was streaked with tears, but Marcus's trained eye scanned her quickly. No visible trauma, no blood, breathing rapid but steady, pupils equal and reactive. Shock, adrenaline, scared out of her mind, but alive. "Hey there, sweetheart." Marcus kept his voice soft, gentle, the same tone he'd used with wounded children in Kandahar. "You're okay. Everything's okay now. Can you tell me your name?" The little girl hiccuped, nodded. "Zoe." "That's a beautiful name. I'm Marcus. I need you to do something for me, Zoe. I need you to take some deep breaths with me, okay? In through your nose," he demonstrated. "Out through your mouth." Zoe copied him. In, out. Her breathing started to slow. "Good girl, you're doing great. Now, does anything hurt? Your head, your neck?" She shook her head. "Perfect. I'm going to pick you up and get you out of the car. Is that okay?" Another nod. Marcus reached in, moved with the careful precision of someone who'd carried wounded soldiers through minefields. He supported her neck, lifted her out, set her gently on the pavement away from the damaged vehicle. His hands moved over her skull, feeling for fractures, down her spine, checking alignment, quick assessment of her limbs. Nothing broken, nothing bleeding. Miracle of miracles, the child was fine. On the driver's side, Victoria Sterling finally got her door open. She half fell, half crawled out of the Mercedes, designer heels catching on the door frame. Her perfect blonde hair hung in her face. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. The Chanel suit had a rip in the sleeve. She looked at Zoe, looked at Marcus, looked back at Zoe. Then she started to cry. Not the delicate tears of a woman who cried at movies, not the controlled emotion of a CEO in a board meeting. This was something raw and primal, the sound of a mother who just stared death in the face and come back with her child. My baby. Victoria stumbled toward them, nearly fell, caught herself. Is she? She's fine. Marcus kept one hand on Zoe's shoulder, steadying her. Mild shock. She needs to sit down, drink some water, but she's going to be okay. Victoria dropped to her knees in front of her daughter, pulling the girl into her arms, holding her like she'd never let go. Zoe wrapped her small arms around her mother's neck, and they rocked together on the pavement while Marcus stood guard, scanning the waterfront for additional threats. Because his brain, that analytical engine that had kept him alive in war zones and emergency rooms, had already processed something important, something terrifying. He walked to the front of the Mercedes, dropped to his stomach on the cold pavement, and looked underneath. The streetlights gave him just enough illumination to see what he needed to see. The brake lines had been cut. Not frayed, not worn, cut. Clean slice through the hydraulic line, precisely placed to fail after enough brake fluid had leaked out, and next to it the steering servo cable had been severed the same way. This wasn't mechanical failure. This wasn't bad luck or poor maintenance. Someone had crawled under this Mercedes S-Class and sabotaged it with the specific intent to kill whoever was inside. Marcus slid back out from under the car, his mind racing. Who cuts brake lines in Seattle? Who tries to murder a woman and her child? And why? In the distance, sirens wailed. Someone had called 911. Police and ambulance were 3 minutes out, maybe 4. Marcus looked at Victoria Sterling, still holding her daughter, both of them alive because he'd been in the right place at the right time. Or maybe not the right time. Maybe someone's plan had just gone very, very wrong. Victoria looked up, met his eyes. Hers were blue, striking blue, even red and swollen from crying. What did you say? Her voice shook. Before, I heard you say something. Marcus hesitated. The sirens were getting closer, 2 minutes now. I said this wasn't an accident. Victoria's face went pale. What do you mean? The brake lines, they were cut. Someone did this deliberately. The color drained from her face so fast Marcus thought she might faint. He moved closer, ready to catch her if she fell. Someone, she whispered, someone tried to kill us. Yes, ma'am. Zoe was watching them now, brown eyes moving from her mother to Marcus and back again. Too smart for her own good, this kid. She understood more than a 7-year-old should. Who would do that? Victoria's voice had gone small, fragile, nothing like the confident CEO voice she probably used in board meetings. Marcus shook his head. I don't know, but you need to tell the police everything when they get here, everything about anyone who might want to hurt you. The ambulance arrived first, lights painting the scene in alternating red and white. 2 paramedics jumped out, a Latino man in his 30s and a young white woman with red hair. They rushed toward the Mercedes, medical bags in hand. The man took one look at Marcus kneeling next to Zoe, and his professional mask slipped for just a second. Recognition flickered in his eyes. You check them? He asked Marcus. Yes, the child has no visible trauma, vitals stable. Adult female, same assessment. Both should be evaluated for shock and delayed injury presentation. The paramedic's eyes narrowed. That wasn't how civilians talked. That was medical professional language. "You a doctor?" Marcus stood up, took a step back. "No, just someone who knows first aid. They're all yours." The police arrived as the paramedics were loading Victoria and Zoe into the ambulance. 2 patrol cars, 4 officers. Marcus gave his statement, short and factual. He'd heard the car. He'd run to help. He'd pulled the emergency brake. He'd noticed the cut brake lines. The lead officer, a tired-looking white man in his 50s, took notes on a tablet. "We'll need you to come to the station tomorrow to make a formal statement." "Yes, sir." "And your name again?" "Marcus Jackson." The officer looked up. Something flickered in his expression. Recognition, suspicion. Marcus couldn't tell. "You live around here, Mr. Jackson?" "I work here, Jackson's Automotive, 2 blocks back." He pointed. "Auto mechanic?" "Yes, sir." The officer nodded slowly, writing something in his notes. Marcus had seen that look before. The quick assessment. Black man, blue-collar worker, probably not worth much more attention. Good, Marcus preferred to be underestimated, preferred to be invisible. At the ambulance, Victoria was trying to get the paramedics to let her out. She kept looking around, scanning the waterfront, her face tight with fear. "Wait," she spotted Marcus starting to walk away. "Wait, please." Marcus turned. Victoria climbed out of the ambulance despite the protests of the paramedics. She walked toward him on unsteady legs, her expensive heels clicking on the pavement. Up close, Marcus could see she was younger than he'd first thought. Maybe 32, 33. Beautiful in that expensive way that came from good genes and better cosmetic doctors. "I need to thank you." Her voice was steadier now. The CEO was coming back, pushing down the terrified mother. "You saved our lives. I need to know your name." "You already know it, Marcus Jackson." "That's not enough. I need to thank you properly. I need to." She fumbled in her damaged purse, pulled out a wallet. "Please let me give you something." "I don't want your money, ma'am." "Then what can I do? How can I repay you?" Marcus looked past her at Zoe, sitting in the ambulance, wrapped in a blanket, watching them with those 2 smart eyes. "Make sure your daughter is okay. That's payment enough." "But I don't even know who you are. I need to know. I need." Victoria trailed off, her mask cracking again. "Someone just tried to kill us, and you appeared out of nowhere and saved us. Who are you?" In the ambulance, Zoe called out, "Mommy, the nice man saved us. Don't let him go." Marcus smiled despite himself. Kids had that effect on him, had ever since his own Zoe had been born. His daughter, named after his wife's grandmother, and now this little girl shared that name. Coincidence had to be. "I was just nearby at the right time," Marcus said. "I'm glad you're both safe." He turned to walk away again. This time, Victoria grabbed his arm. Her hand was small, soft, with perfectly manicured nails. The hand of someone who'd never done physical labor in her life. "Please, at least tell me where to find you. I need to know who saved my daughter." Marcus looked down at her hand on his arm, looked back at her face. She was scared, really scared, and underneath the fear he could see something else. Desperation. The look of someone who knew they were in danger and didn't know who to trust. Against his better judgment, he reached into his wallet and pulled out one of the business cards he kept for customers. "Jackson's Automotive Repair. I work there most days." Victoria took the card, clutched it like a lifeline. Thank you so much." Marcus nodded once and walked away into the darkness, leaving the lights and sirens and chaos behind him. He didn't look back. Didn't see Victoria staring after him, the business card pressed against her chest. Didn't see the police officer taking a photo of him with his phone. Didn't see the black SUV parked 3 blocks away, engine idling, driver watching everything through tinted windows. Marcus Jackson just walked back to his shop, locked the door behind him, and stood in the darkness for a long moment. His hands were shaking. The adrenaline was starting to wear off, replaced by the crash that always came after combat. His body remembered 8 years in the Marines, dozens of firefights, hundreds of emergencies. The shaking always came after. He looked down at his forearms. Blood from the broken windshield glass had soaked through his jacket sleeve. He'd need to clean that, bandage it, make sure it didn't get infected. But first, he needed to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth, the same breathing exercise he just taught little Zoe. Who was Victoria Sterling? Why would someone want to kill her? And why did Marcus Jackson have the terrible feeling that his simple, invisible life had just gotten very complicated? He pushed the questions away, not his problem. He'd done his good deed, saved a life, 2 lives, that was enough. Tomorrow he'd go back to being a mechanic, back to being nobody. Back to being invisible. Flashback 3 years earlier. The screen in Marcus's mind flickered, changed, became something else, became somewhere else, became 3 years ago. Sterling Medical Research Division, North Seattle campus, glass and steel and million-dollar equipment. Marcus Jackson in a white lab coat, name badge clipped to his pocket. Medical device testing specialist. That had been his title. That had been his identity. Before they took it away. The memory played like a movie he'd watched 1,000 times. Marcus in the testing lab, surrounded by CardioGuard prototype units. Cardiac monitors designed to detect heart attacks and automatically alert emergency services. Revolutionary technology. William Sterling's masterpiece. Except they were failing. 40% failure rate in stress testing. Unacceptable for any medical device, let alone one that was supposed to save lives. Marcus had documented everything. Written detailed reports, followed protocol exactly. Then Richard Crane had walked into the lab. Richard Crane, Chief Financial Officer, 58 years old, silver hair, expensive suits, smile like a shark. He'd stood in the doorway of Marcus's lab, radiating the kind of power that came from decades of corporate politics. "Marcus, we need to talk about your reports." "Yes, sir. The CardioGuard units are showing significant reliability issues. I recommend delaying the FDA approval application until we can identify and correct the failure points." Richard had smiled, that terrible shark smile. "That's not going to work for our timeline. We need FDA approval by end of quarter. The board is expecting it. Our investors are expecting it. We're not going to delay because of some anomalous test results." "With respect, sir, 40% failure rate isn't anomalous. It's systemic. These devices could kill people." The smile had vanished. "Let me be very clear, Marcus. Your job is to test devices, not to make business decisions. I'm telling you to sign the approval documentation. Are we understood?" Marcus had stood his ground, had stood on 8 years of Marine Corps values and 3 years of medical ethics training, had stood on the simple principle that some things mattered more than quarterly profits. "I can't do that, sir. It would violate my professional ethics. People will die if we release defective devices." Richard's face had gone cold, ice cold. "Then I think you need to reconsider your priorities. You have a daughter, don't you? Zoe. She must be, 4 years old now. That's an expensive age. Daycare, medical bills, saving for college. It would be a shame if you lost your income. The threat had been clear. Sign the papers or lose your job. Marcus had made his choice. I'm going to report this conversation to Mr. Sterling. He has a right to know about the device failures and your pressure to hide them. That had been his mistake, thinking honesty would win, thinking integrity mattered more than money, thinking William Sterling would side with truth over profit. He'd never gotten the chance to find out. The next morning, federal agents had been waiting at his house. Wire fraud, industrial espionage, selling proprietary research to competitors. They'd found emails on his computer, detailed communications with a med-tech corporation executive, discussions of payment in exchange for Sterling Medical's research data. Except Marcus had never sent those emails, had never communicated with med-tech, had never even heard of the executive whose name was in the messages. The emails had been fabricated, planted, perfect forgeries with his digital signature, sent from his computer while he'd been at home with his daughter. 2 junior researchers testified against him, Sarah Park and Kevin Torres. Both claimed they'd witnessed Marcus discussing the sale of research data. Both swore under oath they'd seen him copy files to external drives. Both were lying. Marcus could see it in their eyes during the deposition. The fear, the shame, but they'd testified anyway, and their testimony had been enough. The medical board had revoked his license. The criminal charges had been dropped for insufficient evidence, but the damage was done. Marcus Jackson, decorated Marine medic, respected medical professional, had become Marcus Jackson, suspected fraudster. Nobody would hire him, not in medicine, not in research, not in anything requiring trust or credentials. He'd lost his career, his reputation, his identity. Sarah, his wife, had tried to stand by him, tried to believe in him, but the bills piled up, the debt mounted, the stress ate at their marriage like acid. Then the baby had come early, complications, hospital emergency. Sarah had coded on the delivery table, and by the time they'd stabilized her, it was too late. Massive hemorrhage, brain death within hours. The doctors said there was nothing anyone could have done, said it was just bad luck, said these things happen. But Marcus had read the medical charts, had seen the notes, had understood what the doctors wouldn't say out loud. Delayed response time. Equipment malfunction in the cardiac monitoring system. 4-minute delay in detecting Sarah's deteriorating condition. The equipment had been CardioGuard, the same system he'd tried to stop, the same defective devices that Richard Crane had forced through approval anyway. His wife had died because he'd failed to stop a corrupt system, because he'd been too weak to fight harder, because he'd trusted that truth would win. Sarah's death had destroyed the last pieces of who Marcus Jackson used to be. He'd taken the insurance money, paid off the medical bills, and disappeared. Changed his last name from Hayes to Jackson, his mother's maiden name. Moved to a different part of Seattle. Got a job as an auto mechanic, using skills his grandfather had taught him as a teenager. Became invisible. For 3 years he'd lived a quiet life. Small apartment in Rainier Valley. Simple work. No complications. Just him and Zoe and the memory of Sarah. Until tonight. Until a black Mercedes with cut brake lines and a blonde woman and a little girl who reminded him too much of his own daughter. Marcus blinked. The memory faded. He was back in the present, standing alone in his dark auto shop, blood drying on his forearms. He pulled out his phone, stared at the dark screen for a long moment. Then he Googled Victoria Sterling. The results loaded. CEO of Sterling Medical Devices, daughter of William Sterling, founder of the company. net worth estimated at $1.2 billion, recently promoted to CEO after her father's death 3 months ago in a car accident. Marcus's blood went cold. Car accident 3 months ago, William Sterling. His finger moved almost on autopilot, clicking on the news article, reading the details. Single vehicle crash, mechanical failure, Mercedes S-Class, brake system malfunction. The same way they just tried to kill Victoria. Marcus's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He stared at it for 3 rings before answering. Hello. Marcus Jackson. The voice was male, white, educated, cold. Who's asking? Someone who wants you to forget about tonight. Forget what you saw. Forget you ever met Victoria Sterling. And if I don't? A pause, then. You have a beautiful daughter, Zoe, right? 7 years old. Goes to Laurelhurst Elementary. It would be a shame if something happened to her. The line went dead. Marcus stood frozen in the darkness, the phone still pressed to his ear, rage and fear warring in his chest. They'd threatened his daughter. These people, whoever they were, had just threatened the only thing in the world that mattered to him. 3 years ago, Marcus Jackson had chosen to be invisible, had chosen the quiet life, had chosen to let the corrupt world spin without him. That choice had just ended. Mourning the hidden father. 5:30 in the morning. The alarm on Marcus's phone buzzed softly, pulling him out of restless sleep. He'd been dreaming about Sarah, about the hospital, about holding her hand while the machines beeped their futile warnings. He silenced the alarm and lay in the darkness of his small bedroom, staring at the ceiling. His forearms ached where the windshield glass had cut him. He'd bandaged them carefully before bed, but the wounds throbbed with his pulse. Small price for saving 2 lives. Marcus rolled out of bed, moving quietly. Zoe was still sleeping in the next room, and he had exactly 90 minutes before she needed to wake up for school. 90 minutes to be himself before he had to put on the dad mask and pretend everything was normal. The apartment was small. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely big enough for a table and 4 chairs. 800 square feet total. Rent was $1,600 a month, which was actually cheap for Seattle, but it ate through most of Marcus's paycheck from the auto shop. He'd lived in worse. The barracks in Afghanistan had been hot as hell in summer, freezing in winter, and always smelled like diesel fuel and unwashed Marines. This apartment was a palace by comparison. But it wasn't the house he'd once owned. Wasn't the 4-bedroom colonial in Magnolia with the view of the Sound. Wasn't the life he'd built with Sarah before everything fell apart. Marcus pushed the thoughts away and started his morning routine. Shower, shave, dress in clean work clothes, Carhartt jacket and Dickies work pants. Check the bandages on his forearms, make sure they weren't bleeding through. Then he moved to the kitchen and began cooking breakfast. Pancakes, Zoe's favorite. Marcus mixed the batter from scratch, no box mix, the way his grandmother had taught him. Added a pinch of cinnamon and vanilla extract. Let the batter rest while he heated the griddle. Cooking was meditation. Cooking was control. In a world where everything else had spun into chaos, Marcus could still make perfect pancakes. He poured the batter into heart shapes. Zoe loved heart-shaped pancakes. Said they tasted better than round ones, which was ridiculous, but Marcus made them anyway because making his daughter smile was the only thing that kept the darkness at bay. 6:45, time to wake her up. He walked down the short hallway to Zoe's room and opened the door quietly. The room was pink, so pink it almost hurt to look at. Pink walls, pink bedding, pink curtains with white stars. Stuffed animals covered every surface. A small bookshelf overflowed with picture books and early readers. And on the nightstand, in a simple frame, was the photo. Sarah, smiling, pregnant, glowing with that special light that women get when they're carrying life inside them. The photo had been taken 6 weeks before she died, 6 weeks before Zoe was born and Sarah left them forever. Marcus looked at that photo every morning, talked to it sometimes when Zoe wasn't around, told Sarah about their daughter, about how smart Zoe was, how funny, how brave. Told Sarah he was sorry he couldn't save her. "Daddy." Zoe's voice, sleepy and small, pulled him back. She was sitting up in bed, rubbing her eyes with small fists. Her hair, a mass of tight curls inherited from Sarah's side of the family, stuck up in every direction. "Morning, baby girl." Marcus sat on the edge of her bed, ready for another day. "Do I have to go to school?" "Yes, ma'am." "But it's so early." "Early bird gets the worm." "I don't want a worm. Worms are gross." Marcus laughed, the sound surprising him. When had he last laughed? He couldn't remember. "Fair point. How about the early bird gets pancakes instead?" Zoe's face lit up. "Heart pancakes. Is there any other kind?" She scrambled out of bed, still wearing her Mona pajamas, and wrapped her arms around his neck. Marcus held her close, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo, feeling the small weight of her body against his chest. This was why he got up every morning, why he worked 10-hour days fixing other people's cars, why he'd chosen invisibility over fighting back. Because Zoe needed him, and he would not fail her the way he'd failed Sarah. They ate breakfast together at the small kitchen table. Zoe chattered about her upcoming field trip to the aquarium, about her friend Lily who had a new puppy, about how she was learning multiplication in math class and it was hard but she was getting better. Marcus listened, really listened, made eye contact, asked questions. All the things the parenting book said you were supposed to do, but that most parents were too busy or too distracted to actually manage. He wasn't too busy for Zoe, would never be too busy for Zoe. "Daddy," Zoe paused with a forkful of pancake halfway to her mouth. "That scar on your arm, the old one, not the new band-aids. Where'd you get it?" Marcus looked down at his left forearm. Through the fresh bandages, he could still see the edge of an older scar. Shrapnel wound from an IED outside Kandahar. He'd been extracting a wounded Marine when the second explosion hit. The Marine had lived. Marcus had earned a Purple Heart and a permanent reminder. "Long time ago, sweetheart, different life." "Were you in the war, like in my history book?" "Yeah, I was in the war." "Were you a hero?" The question hit him harder than it should have. Hero, such a simple word, such a complicated truth. "I tried to be. Sometimes trying is enough, sometimes it isn't." Zoe reached across the table and touched the bandages on his other arm, the fresh ones from last night's glass. "These are new. Did you get hurt yesterday?" Marcus had hoped she wouldn't notice. 7-year-olds were too observant for their own good. "Just a little accident at work, nothing serious." "Does it hurt?" "A little, but I've had worse." She went quiet, studying his face with those two smart eyes. Then, "You're always getting hurt helping people. Ms. Rodriguez at the corner store said you helped her when her car broke down in the rain. And Mrs. Chen upstairs said you fixed her sink when the landlord wouldn't come. And that man at the grocery store whose wheelchair got stuck. Those were small things, baby." "No, they weren't. They were big to the people you helped." Zoe set down her fork. "I think you're a hero, Daddy, even if you don't." Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. some wall he'd built to keep the emotion contained. He reached across the table and took his daughter's small hand in his scarred, calloused one. "You know what makes someone a hero, Zoe?" "What?" "It's not the medals or the praise. It's doing the right thing even when it's hard, even when no one's watching, even when you're scared." "Are you ever scared?" Always, he wanted to say. Every single day. Scared of failing you. Scared of losing you. Scared of the people who threatened you last night. But he didn't say that. Instead, sometimes, everyone gets scared. Brave people just don't let the fear stop them. Zoe nodded seriously, processing this information with the gravity of a Supreme Court justice. "Okay, I'll try to be brave too." "You already are, sweetheart, every single day." 7:15. Time to get ready for school. Zoe ran to her room to get dressed while Marcus cleaned up the breakfast dishes. His phone sat on the counter, dark and silent. He'd blocked the number from last night's threat, but that didn't mean they wouldn't find other ways to contact him. Or other ways to hurt him. He picked up the phone, pulled up the browser, and searched for information about William Sterling's death. The news articles all said the same thing: single vehicle accident, mechanical failure, no foul play suspected. But Marcus knew better now, knew what cut-break lines looked like, knew that the same people who'd killed William Sterling had just tried to kill his daughter. The question was, why? What had William Sterling known or done that was worth murdering him? And why was Victoria still in danger? Not your problem, Marcus told himself. You saved her. You did your good deed. Now walk away before you get pulled into something that will destroy you again. But even as he thought it, he knew he was lying to himself, because someone had threatened Zoe, and Marcus Jackson would walk through hell itself before he let anyone hurt his daughter. 7:45. Zoe emerged from her bedroom in jeans and a purple t-shirt with a sparkly unicorn on the front. Her backpack, pink with rainbows, was slung over one shoulder. Her hair was still a disaster. "Come here, baby. Let me fix your hair." Zoe sat on the couch while Marcus worked through her curls with a wide-toothed comb, carefully detangling. Sarah used to do this, had taught him the right products, the right techniques, leave-in conditioner, coconut oil on the ends, gentle fingers never pulling. He separated her hair into sections and began braiding. 2 French braids, neat and tight, the kind that would last all day at school without coming undone. "Daddy, you're better at this than Lily's mom." "Lily's mom has straight hair, different skill set." "Still, you're really good." Marcus tied off the second braid with a purple elastic band and turned Zoe around to inspect his work. Perfect. Sarah would have been proud. "All right, kiddo, grab your lunch box, time to go." The drive to Laurelhurst Elementary took 20 minutes in morning traffic. Marcus's 2008 Honda Civic wasn't much to look at, but he kept it running perfectly. Oil changed every 3,000 miles. Tires rotated. All the maintenance done exactly on schedule. The car was him, unremarkable on the outside, reliable where it counted. Laurelhurst Elementary sat in one of Seattle's wealthiest neighborhoods. The school itself was public, but the houses around it cost $2 million minimum. Tesla SUVs and Mercedes sedans filled the drop-off lane. Parents in designer workout clothes and business suits. Zoe attended on a special enrollment program for students from outside the district. The program was supposed to promote diversity and give kids from working-class families access to better schools. In practice, it meant Zoe was one of 3 black students in a sea of white and Asian kids from rich families. Marcus pulled into the drop-off lane behind a silver Tesla. The dad driving it wore a suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. His daughter, maybe 8 years old, had the kind of perfect blonde hair that came from weekly salon appointments. Zoe grabbed her backpack. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, baby. Have a great day. Remember, I'm picking you up at 3. 3 o'clock, got it." She leaned over and kissed his cheek, then hopped out of the car. Marcus watched her walk toward the school entrance, her little backpack bouncing with each step. Watched until she disappeared through the doors. Then he sat in the drop-off lane, engine idling, and noticed the other parents staring. A white woman in yoga pants, maybe 40, walking her daughter to the entrance. She looked at Marcus's old Honda, looked at Marcus. Her expression shifted, not hostile exactly, just dismissive, the look people give to service workers and janitors. Another parent, this one a white man in his 50s driving a Mercedes GLS, actually rolled down his window as he passed. "Excuse me, are you the new janitor?" Marcus met his eyes in the rearview mirror. "No, sir, just dropping off my daughter." The man looked surprised. "Oh, I didn't realize." He trailed off, but the unspoken words hung in the air anyway. "Didn't realize someone like you had a kid here. Didn't realize you could afford this neighborhood. Didn't realize you existed." Marcus was used to it, used to being invisible, used to the assumptions people made based on his skin color and his work clothes. He pulled out of the drop-off lane and drove away without looking back. This was day one, the day everything changed, the day Marcus Jackson stopped being invisible. But he didn't know that yet. Didn't know that in less than 12 hours, Victoria Sterling would walk into his auto shop and turn his careful, quiet life upside down. Didn't know that the war was coming. For now, he just drove to work, clocked in, put on his mechanic's uniform, and tried to forget about cut brake lines and death threats and the terrible feeling that his past was about to collide with his present in ways he couldn't control. Tried and failed. 8 o'clock in the morning. Victoria Sterling sat alone in her office on the 42nd floor, surrounded by walls of glass that made her feel like a butterfly pinned in a display case. The Seattle skyline stretched before her, gray and beautiful and indifferent. Somewhere out there, someone wanted her dead. The private investigator's report lay open on her desk. 10 pages. Comprehensive. Expensive. She'd paid $5,000 for information that should have been impossible to find about a man who'd spent 3 years being invisible. But money opened doors. Money bought answers. Marcus Jackson, born Marcus Hayes in Detroit, 1989, only child. Mother died when he was 12. Raised by his grandfather, a mechanic who'd worked at Ford for 40 years. Enlisted in the Marines at 18. Hospital corpsman, 8 years of service. 2 tour in Afghanistan. Purple Heart. Honorable discharge. Victoria's finger traced the timeline. 2017. Marcus had joined Sterling Medical Research Division, medical device testing specialist. 3 years of excellent performance reviews, promoted twice, recommended for department head position. Then 2020, everything had exploded. Arrested for wire fraud and industrial espionage. Accused of selling proprietary research to MedTech Corporation, Sterling Medical's largest competitor. Federal investigation. 2 witnesses testified against him. The evidence had seemed overwhelming. Except the charges were dropped. Insufficient evidence. The emails that had damned him couldn't be conclusively traced to his computer. The witnesses' testimony had been circumstantial. The case had fallen apart. But the damage was done. Medical license revoked, career destroyed, reputation ruined. And 6 months later, his wife Sarah had died. Childbirth complications. The medical report was clinical, cold, acute hemorrhage. Equipment malfunction delayed response time by 4 minutes. By the time doctors stabilized her, she'd suffered catastrophic brain damage. Victoria stared at Sarah's photo in the report. Beautiful black woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. In the picture, she was pregnant, glowing, completely unaware that in a few weeks she'd be dead. 4-minute delay, equipment malfunction. Victoria pulled up Sterling Medical's product database, cross-referenced the hospital where Sarah had died, found the equipment manifest for the maternity ward. Her blood went cold. CardioGuard cardiac monitoring system, manufactured by Sterling Medical Devices, the flagship product that her father had developed, the same product line that now generated $800 million in annual revenue. Sarah Hayes had died because Sterling Medical equipment had failed. Victoria's hands shook as she reached for her phone, called Tracy. "I need you to pull something for me. All customer complaint records for CardioGuard devices, every single one, going back 5 years. Mr. Crane already sent those files yesterday. They should be in your secure folder." Victoria opened the folder, found a summary report. Clean, professional, minimal complaints, everything within acceptable parameters. "I don't want the summary, I want the raw data, actual customer complaints, unfiltered." A pause on the other end of the line. That might take some time. The raw database is extensive." "I don't care how extensive it is. Get it for me, today." "Yes, Miss Sterling." Victoria hung up and stared at the summary report on her screen. Something was wrong. She could feel it the way you feel a storm coming before the sky turns dark. Her door opened. Richard Crane walked in without knocking. He never knocked. 58 years old and acting like he owned the company. Acting like he'd built it himself instead of riding William Sterling's coattails for 15 years. "Victoria, we need to discuss yesterday's incident." "You mean when your security guard tried to intimidate me?" Richard's expression didn't change, smooth as glass. "I sent him to protect you. Someone tried to kill you in case you've forgotten." "I don't need protection I didn't ask for." "Nevertheless, as CFO, I have a responsibility to ensure executive safety, especially our CEO." He sat down across from her desk without being invited. "The man who interfered, the mechanic, who is he?" "Someone who happened to be there." "His name is Marcus Jackson, or Marcus Hayes, depending on which records you check." So Richard had been digging too. Of course he had. "He used to work for us," Richard continued, "until we discovered he was selling research to competitors. The charges were dropped. Technically, but the evidence was clear. He's a fraud and possibly dangerous. I strongly advise you to stay away from him." Victoria met Richard's eyes, held his gaze. "Why?" "I just explained why. He's untrustworthy." "No, why did you frame him?" The air in the room changed, became electric, dangerous. Richard's face remained perfectly calm, but something flickered in his eyes, something cold and calculating. "That's a serious accusation." "Is it? Because I've been looking into his case. The evidence against him was all digital, emails that couldn't be definitively traced, witnesses who provided circumstantial testimony, the kind of case that falls apart under scrutiny. The medical board revoked his license based on that same flimsy evidence, and then 6 months later his wife died because of equipment failure, CardioGuard equipment failure, our equipment." Richard stood up, slowly, deliberately. "I think you're under a great deal of stress. The attack has clearly affected your judgment." "My father died the same way. Brake failure, just like my car, just like someone tried to kill me." Your father's death was an accident. How do you know? Because I was there, Victoria. I was with your father for 15 years. I knew everything about his life. If someone wanted him dead, I would have known. Would you, or would you have been the one who wanted him dead? The words hung in the air like smoke, toxic, irreversible. Richard's expression finally cracked. Anger flashed across his face, raw and real. I loved your father like a brother. How dare you suggest I had anything to do with his death? Then help me find out who did. Open the books. Let me see the real complaint records for CardioGuard. Let me investigate without interference. There's nothing to investigate. You're seeing conspiracies where there are only coincidences. 47 brake failures in 6 months, all involving CardioGuard integration systems. Is that a coincidence? Richard went very still. Where did you hear that number? So it's true. Those failures were documented and addressed. Standard quality control. Nothing that required FDA notification. 47 failures, and you didn't notify the FDA. They were minor malfunctions, no patient harm, well within acceptable parameters. My father died from a malfunction. Your father died from a tragic accident. Don't dishonor his memory by turning his death into a conspiracy theory. Richard walked to the door, stopped, turned back. For your own safety, Victoria, I strongly recommend you distance yourself from Marcus Hayes. The man is unstable, dangerous, and if you continue associating with him, the board may begin to question your fitness to lead this company. He left. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot. Victoria sat alone in her glass prison, her heart pounding, her mind racing. Richard had all but confirmed everything: the defensive posture, the threats, the warning about the board. She pulled out her phone and called the number on Marcus Jackson's business card. He answered on the second ring. Jackson's Automotive. It's Victoria Sterling. I need to see you today. It's important. A pause, then my shep, 1 hour, come alone. The line went dead. Victoria looked at the private investigator's report again, at the photo of Marcus in his Marine uniform, young, strong, honorable. Richard had destroyed this man, had destroyed his career, his life, and indirectly caused his wife's death, all to cover up defective medical devices and protect company profits. And now Richard was coming after her. She needed an ally, someone who understood the enemy, someone who had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. She needed Marcus Hayes. Investigation begins. 10 o'clock. Marcus stood in Bay 3 of Jackson's Automotive, hands deep in the engine of a Toyota Camry, but his mind was miles away. The pistol tucked into his waistband pressed against his lower back, a constant reminder that his invisible life had ended. The shop phone rang. Jimmy answered it. Jackson's Automotive. Yeah, he's here. Hold on. Jimmy appeared in the bay doorway. Marcus, it's for you. Says it's urgent. Marcus wiped his hands on a shop rag and took the phone. This is Marcus. It's Dr. Alan Chen. Marcus's pulse quickened. He hadn't spoken to Chen in 3 years. His former commanding officer in Afghanistan. The man who'd taught him advanced trauma medicine. The man who'd vouched for him when everything fell apart and everyone else disappeared. Sir, it's good to hear from you. I heard you were in some trouble. Saw your name in a police report about a car rescue. Then I saw who you rescued. Victoria Sterling. News travels fast. In the medical community it does. Marcus, I need to tell you something about Sarah. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. What about her? I've been doing cardiac device research at Mount Sinai. Part of that research involves reviewing equipment failure databases. I found something. Sarah's death. The equipment that failed in her delivery room. CardioGuard system. I know, I looked it up. Did you know it was part of a pattern? 47 documented failures in 18 months, all involving the same firmware vulnerability, all covered up by Sterling Medical. The words hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. 47 failures. Sarah hadn't been alone, hadn't been the only victim of corporate greed and Richard Crane's cover-up. Can you prove it? I have the database records. I can testify. But Marcus, you need to understand something. If we go public with this, Sterling Medical will come after us with everything they have. Legal teams, PR firms. They'll destroy anyone who threatens their billion-dollar product line. Let them try. You sure about that? You've been through hell already. They threatened my daughter, Chen. That was their mistake. A pause. Then Chen's voice came back, harder, colder. The voice of a Marine officer who'd seen combat and knew what war looked like. Then let's burn them down. I'll send you the files, encrypted. Use the old protocols. Roger that, and Chen, thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get ugly. The line went dead just as Victoria Sterling's Mercedes SUV pulled into the parking lot. Marcus watched her through the bay door. She looked different today. Less CEO, more human. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a sweater instead of a business suit. Designer jeans and cashmere sweater probably, but still, closer to normal. She got out of the SUV and walked toward the shop. Marcus met her at the door. We should talk somewhere private. Marcus glanced at Jimmy and the other mechanics, all of them watching with barely concealed curiosity. Follow me. He led her through the shop to the small office in back. Cluttered desk, metal filing cabinets, a coffee maker that had seen better days. The walls were covered with automotive posters and old calendars, nothing like the glass palace Victoria was used to. She looked around, taking it in. You've been here 3 years. Yeah. Hiding. Surviving. Victoria turned to face him. Up close, he could see the dark circles under her eyes, the tension in her jaw. She hadn't slept. Neither had he. I looked into your case, the fraud investigation. It was fabricated, wasn't it? Yes. Richard Crane did it, to silence you, because you tried to stop defective CardioGuard devices from reaching the market. Yes. And my wife died because one of those devices failed. Victoria's face crumpled. Real pain, real guilt. I'm so sorry, I didn't know. My father would never have allowed that. Your father was investigating it. That's why Crane killed him. How do you know that? Marcus pulled out his phone, showed her the encrypted files Chen had just sent. I have a contact, former commanding officer. He's been researching cardiac device failures. Found a pattern. 47 CardioGuard malfunctions in 18 months, all covered up, all unreported to FDA. Your father started asking questions about the cover-up 1 week before he died. Victoria stared at the data on his phone screen. Her hands shook. Oh God, Dad knew. He was trying to fix it. And Crane killed him before he could. We have to go to the police, the FBI, someone. With what? Digital files that could be dismissed as forgeries, circumstantial evidence. The same kind of case that fell apart when Crane framed me. Marcus shook his head. We need ironclad proof, something undeniable, something that can't be explained away by expensive lawyers. What kind of proof? Financial records, direct evidence of the cover-up, Proof that Crane knew about the failures and deliberately suppressed them. Proof that he sabotaged your car and your father's car. How do we get that? You're the CEO. You have access to everything. Victoria laughed bitterly. In theory. In practice, Richard controls most of the operational systems. He's been with the company for 15 years. He knows where every file is buried. I've been CEO for 3 months and I'm still figuring out where the bathroom is. Then we dig. We find what he doesn't want us to find. Why are you helping me? After what my company did to you, you should want to watch it burn. Marcus looked at her, really looked, saw the fear and determination warring in her eyes, saw someone who just learned her entire world was built on lies and corruption. Saw someone a lot like himself. Because they threatened my daughter, and because your father tried to do the right thing, he deserves justice. So does Sarah. So do the other 46 people who died because Crane cared more about profits than lives. Victoria extended her hand. Partners. Marcus hesitated. This was the moment, the choice. Go back to being invisible or step into the light and fight. He thought about Zoe, about the photo they'd sent of her walking into school, about the threat that hung over her head every second he did nothing. He shook Victoria's hand. Partners. Where do we start? Your father's personal files. Anything he kept outside the company's servers. If he was investigating Crane, he would have documented it somewhere safe. His home office. I inherited the house, but I haven't gone through his things yet. It's too, she trailed off. Painful, I know, but we need to do it. Victoria nodded, straightened her shoulders, the CEO coming back online. Tonight, after I put Zoe to bed, the house is in Magnolia. I'll text you the address. Come alone, no security, no assistance, no one who might report back to Crane. Understood. As Victoria turned to leave, Marcus called after her. One more thing. Be careful what you eat or drink at the office. If Crane wanted you dead once, he'll try again. And poison is quieter than car crashes. Victoria's face went pale. She nodded and left. Marcus stood alone in the office, feeling the weight of what he'd just committed to. He was going to war with a billion-dollar company, with powerful people who had already proven they were willing to kill. But he'd been to war before, in Afghanistan, in emergency rooms, in the fight to save Sarah's life. He knew how to fight, knew how to win. And this time, he wasn't going to lose. Days 3 through 5, building the case. The next 72 hours became a blur of investigation and preparation. Marcus and Victoria worked separately during the days, gathering evidence, following leads. At night, they met in secret locations to compare notes and plan their next moves. Day 3 started with Victoria accessing her father's cloud storage. Buried in encrypted folders, she found preliminary notes. William Sterling had suspected Richard Crane of embezzlement as early as 6 months before his death. The notes were fragmentary, cautious, but they painted a picture of a man who'd begun to see the rot at the heart of his own company. Marcus spent day 3 reconnecting with old contacts, former Marines, medical professionals who'd worked with him before the scandal, people who owed him favors or believed in his innocence. Slowly, carefully, he began assembling a network, people who could provide information, testimony, protection if needed. The threat against Zoe meant Marcus couldn't take chances. He arranged for her to stay with her friend Lily for the next few days, telling her it was an extended playdate. Zoe was thrilled. Marcus was terrified, but at least she'd be away from him, away from the danger that followed him now. Day 4 brought the first real breakthrough. Tracy Chen, Victoria's assistant, approached Victoria in a coffee shop 2 blocks from Sterling Medical Headquarters. Tracy was scared, looking over her shoulder every few seconds, but she had information. "I've been helping Mr. Crane for 2 years," Tracy whispered. "I didn't want to. He said if I told anyone, he'd destroy me like he destroyed Dr. Hayes. But I can't keep quiet anymore. Not after what happened to you." She slid a USB drive across the table. Financial records, offshore accounts, emails about the CardioGuard cover-up, it's all there. Victoria took the drive, hands shaking. "Why now? Why tell me this?" "Because I heard him on the phone yesterday. He was talking to the men who tried to kill you. He's planning to try again. And he knows about Dr. Hayes. He knows you're working together." Marcus, sitting 3 tables away pretending to read a newspaper, felt ice water pour through his veins. "When?" Victoria asked. "Soon." He didn't say exactly when, but he's getting desperate. He knows you're digging into the files. He knows you suspect him. He's going to move against you before you can expose him. That night, Marcus and Victoria met at his apartment. They went through Tracy's USB drive, and what they found was damning. Richard Crane had been systematically embezzling from Sterling Medical for 3 years. $80 million, laundered through shell companies and offshore accounts. The paper trail was complex, but it was there. And mixed in with the financial crimes were the CardioGuard files, customer complaints that had been suppressed, engineering reports that had been falsified, FDA notifications that had never been filed. Richard Crane's fingerprints were on every cover-up, every lie, every decision that had prioritized profit over human life. "This is it," Victoria said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is everything we need." "It's everything we need for the financial crimes," Marcus agreed. "But we still don't have direct proof that Crane killed your father or tried to kill you. Those are separate crimes and they're harder to prove." "Then we make him confess." Marcus looked at her. "How?" "Richard has called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow afternoon. He's planning to oust me as CEO, use the excuse that I'm mentally unstable after the attack. It's his power play." "Tomorrow is day 6, Marcus said. "We've been planning for 5 days. Are we ready?" Victoria met his eyes, saw the determination there. The Marine who'd survived war. The father who'd protect his daughter at any cost. The man who'd been destroyed and rebuilt himself from nothing. "We have to be, because if we're not, we both die." Day 5 was preparation. Marcus reached out to Dr. Chen, confirmed he could be at the board meeting to testify about the CardioGuard failures. Chen agreed immediately. Victoria briefed her lawyers, making sure they understood the legal implications of what was about to happen. Tracy was positioned as the whistleblower, ready to provide first-hand testimony about Crane's crimes. And Marcus spent the afternoon at a firing range, making sure his skills were still sharp. Because if Crane tried to run, if things went wrong, Marcus needed to be ready for anything. That evening, Marcus picked up Zoe from Lily's house. She ran to him, threw her arms around his neck. "Daddy, I missed you." "I missed you too, baby girl." "Are the bad people gone?" Marcus held her tight. "Not yet, but they will be soon." He took her home, made dinner, helped her with homework. Normal dad things. As if tomorrow wasn't the day that would decide everything. After Zoe was asleep, Victoria texted him. "Tomorrow changes everything. Are you scared?" Marcus replied, "Terrified, but fear doesn't matter. What matters is doing what's right. Thank you for helping me, for believing in me, for trusting me when you had no reason to. Thank you for giving me a reason to fight again." They didn't say the other thing. The thing that had been building between them over 5 days of late-night planning sessions and shared danger. The attraction, the connection, the sense that they were more than just partners in this investigation. There would be time for that later, if they survived. Marcus sat on his balcony that night, cleaning his Sig Sauer, thinking about tomorrow, thinking about everything that could go wrong, thinking about Zoe, asleep in her room, unaware that her father was about to go to war. He thought about Sarah, about the promise he'd made to her when she was dying, that he'd take care of their daughter, that he'd be the father Zoe deserved. He was keeping that promise, even if it meant risking everything. The clock ticked toward midnight, toward day 6, toward the board meeting that would end with either Richard Crane in handcuffs or Marcus and Victoria dead. Marcus checked his pistol one more time, loaded, ready. Tomorrow the war would end. One way or another. Day 6, the trap is set. Morning came too fast. Marcus woke at 5, made breakfast for Zoe, tried to act normal. She could sense something was different, kept giving him worried looks, but she didn't ask. 7-year-olds knew when not to push. He dropped her at school, watched her walk through the doors, said a silent prayer that he'd be there to pick her up at 3 o'clock, that everything would be over by then, that the bad men would be gone and life could go back to normal. Whatever normal meant now. Victoria called at 9. I'm at the office. Richard is here, acting like today is just another board meeting. He has no idea what's coming. Stay safe, stay visible, don't be alone with him. I won't see you at 3. 3 o'clock, the board meeting, the final confrontation. Marcus spent the morning getting ready. Showered, shaved, put on the only suit he owned, bought from a thrift store years ago but still presentable, checked his concealed carry permit, made sure it was current, strapped on the Sig Sauer in a shoulder holster under the suit jacket. He looked at himself in the mirror, barely recognized the man staring back. 3 years ago, he'd been Dr. Marcus Hayes, respected medical professional. Then he'd been Marcus Jackson, invisible mechanic. Today, he was something else, something dangerous, something that Richard Crane would regret creating. A warrior, a protector, a father who would burn the world down before letting anyone hurt his daughter. Dr. Chen called at noon. I'm at the airport, landing in Seattle at 2. I'll be at Sterling Medical by 2:45. Thank you, sir, for everything. Marcus, be careful today. These people are cornered. Cornered animals are the most dangerous. I know, but I'm not afraid of them anymore. Good, because you shouldn't be. You've already survived the worst they could do to you. Now it's time to make them pay. At 2 o'clock, Marcus drove to Sterling Medical Headquarters, parked in the visitor lot, checked his phone, message from Victoria. Security tried to stop you from entering. I overrode them. You're cleared as my personal consultant. Come straight to the 42nd floor. He walked through the lobby, feeling eyes on him. The black man in the cheap suit, heading for the executive elevators. Security guards watched him but didn't stop him. Victoria had cleared the way. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt like it took forever. Marcus's heart pounded. His palms were sweaty. Not fear. Adrenaline. The same feeling he'd had before combat operations in Afghanistan. The calm before the storm. The doors opened. Victoria was waiting in the hallway. Are you ready? She asked. Marcus nodded. Are you? No, but I'm doing it anyway. They walked together toward the boardroom, toward Richard Crane, toward justice, toward the end of everything. Inside the boardroom. 2:55. 5 minutes before the meeting started, the boardroom was filling up. 15 board members, 30 journalists in the observation area, everyone sensing that something important was about to happen. Richard Crane stood at the head of the table, confident, powerful, a man who thought he'd already won. Victoria entered, Marcus 3 steps behind her. Richard's eyes narrowed when he saw Marcus. "What is he doing here?" "Marcus Jackson is my personal security consultant. He stays." "The board didn't approve this." "I don't need board approval for my personal staff. He stays." Richard's jaw tightened, but he didn't push further. Not yet, not in front of the cameras. Marcus took his position in the back corner, invisible again, watching, waiting. Dr. Chen slipped into the observation area at 2:58, caught Marcus's eye, gave a slight nod. Everyone was in position. 3 o'clock, the board meeting began. And Richard Crane had no idea he was about to lose everything. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The Sterling Medical boardroom sat on the 42nd floor, all glass and chrome, and the kind of expensive furniture that screamed power. 15 board members filled the leather chairs around the massive conference table. Behind them, 30 journalists crowded into the observation area, cameras ready, sensing that something important was about to happen. Richard Crane stood at the head of the table, immaculate in his $8,000 Brioni suit, silver hair perfectly styled, confidence radiating from every pore. He looked like a man who'd already won, who knew the game was rigged in his favor. He had no idea he was about to lose everything. Victoria Sterling sat 3 chairs down, wearing a navy blue power suit that had cost her $4,000 but felt like armor. Her hands were folded on the table, steady despite the terror coursing through her veins. She'd spent the last 5 days reviewing every piece of evidence with Marcus, every document, every recording, every smoking gun. They were ready. Marcus Jackson stood in the back corner of the room, invisible in his role as Victoria's personal security consultant. The board had objected to his presence. Richard had objected loudly, but Victoria had insisted, and as CEO, she'd gotten her way. Nobody paid attention to the black man in the simple dark suit standing quietly by the wall. They never did. That was his advantage. Marcus scanned the room constantly. Exits, threats, angles of attack. His Sig Sauer pressed against his ribs under the suit jacket. He hoped he wouldn't need it, but hope wasn't a plan. Near the windows, Dr. Alan Chen sat in the guest section, medical files in a leather briefcase on his lap, ready to testify, ready to expose 47 deaths that Sterling Medical had covered up. And in the very back, partially hidden behind the journalists, Tracy Chen sat with her own laptop. The nuclear option, the evidence that would burn everything down if Richard tried to run. All the pieces were in place. Richard called the meeting to order. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending on such short notice. We have urgent matters to discuss regarding the future leadership of Sterling Medical." He clicked a remote. The massive screen behind him came to life. Photos appeared. Marcus Jackson in his mechanic's uniform. Marcus in his old Marine dress uniform. Marcus's mugshot from the fraud arrest 3 years ago. This is Marcus Jackson, also known as Marcus Hayes, former employee of Sterling Medical, terminated for fraud and industrial espionage. Currently employed as an automotive mechanic, and as of 6 days ago, acting as personal security consultant to our CEO. Murmurs rippled through the board. Journalists leaned forward, cameras clicking. Richard's voice dripped with concern. "I bring this to the board's attention because I believe Victoria Sterling has become emotionally compromised. She's formed an inappropriate relationship with a man who was fired for stealing company secrets. a man with a documented history of fraud. Victoria didn't move, didn't react, let Richard hang himself. Furthermore, Richard continued, I have evidence that Ms. Sterling has been conducting unauthorized investigations into company operations, accessing confidential files, making unfounded accusations against senior leadership, behavior that calls into question her fitness to lead this organization. He clicked again. More photos. Victoria and Marcus at William Sterling's house, at Marcus's apartment. Grainy surveillance images that told a story of conspiracy. For the good of Sterling Medical, I move that the board remove Victoria Sterling as CEO and appoint me as interim chief executive, pending a full investigation into her conduct. Silence heavy, expectant. Then Victoria stood. She moved to the front of the room with the confidence of a woman who held all the cards, plugged her laptop into the presentation system. The screen changed. Thank you for that dramatic introduction, Richard. You're right about one thing. Marcus Jackson and I have been investigating company operations. What you failed to mention is why. She clicked. A new image appeared. William Sterling's face. The video testimony he'd recorded 1 week before his death. This is my father, recorded 6 days before he died in what the police called a mechanical failure, what they should have called murder. Gasps from the board, cameras flashed. Victoria pressed play. William Sterling's voice filled the room, strong despite the fear in his eyes. If you're watching this, something has happened to me. Richard Crane is embezzling from Sterling Medical and covering up fatal device failures. I confronted him 3 days ago, told him I was going to the FBI. He threatened me. The video continued. William laid out everything. The $80 million in stolen funds, the CardioGuard cover-up, the deaths that Richard had hidden to protect profits. I'm going to the FBI tomorrow morning, William said on the screen. And if something happens to me before I can, if this video is being watched because I'm dead, know this. Richard Crane is a murderer. He killed me, and he'll kill anyone else who threatens his power. The video ended. The boardroom had gone silent as a tomb. Richard's face had drained of color. That's fabricated, a fake designed to frame me. Is it? Victoria clicked again. Spreadsheets appeared, offshore accounts, wire transfers. These are the financial records my father compiled. $80 million transferred from Sterling Medical to shell companies in the Cayman Islands, companies that you control, Richard. Those records are falsified. We'll let the FBI determine that. They're very good at tracking money laundering. Victoria clicked again. Email chains appeared, Richard's name at the top of every one. Orders to engineers to falsify CardioGuard safety reports. Threats against employees who wanted to report device failures. These emails show you personally ordering the cover-up of 47 CardioGuard device failures over 18 months. Failures that resulted in 12 deaths and dozens of serious injuries. Board members were standing now, shouting, demanding explanations. Richard's voice cut through the chaos. This is a witch hunt, a grieving daughter desperate to blame someone for her father's accident. Then explain this. Victoria clicked once more. Audio recording, Richard's voice crystal clear. I don't care if the devices are failing. We're not reporting it to the FDA. Do you understand what a recall would cost? $800 million in annual revenue. We'd lose everything. So we bury the complaints, pay off the families, make this disappear. Second voice, male, younger. But sir, people are dying. Richard's voice, cold as winter. People always die. That's not our problem. Our problem is keeping this company profitable. The recording ended. Richard stood frozen, trapped, his perfect facade crumbling. "That recording," Victoria said quietly, "was made by my father 2 weeks before he died. He was documenting your crimes, Richard, building a case, and you killed him to stop it." "I did no such thing." "Then explain how my father died of brake failure. The exact same failure that nearly killed me 6 days ago. The exact same sabotage. Cut brake lines. Disabled steering. Both of us driving Mercedes S-Class vehicles equipped with CardioGuard integration systems. Systems you have full access to." Marcus spoke from the back of the room. "First time since the meeting started. Show them the technical analysis, Victoria." She clicked. Detailed engineering reports appeared. These documents show how CardioGuard systems can be remotely accessed and manipulated, how someone with administrative credentials could trigger false alerts, override safety systems, cause vehicles to accelerate uncontrollably and disable brakes. My father's car was equipped with CardioGuard. So was mine. And the access logs show that someone with your administrator credentials, Richard, remotely triggered the override commands on both vehicles. Once on the night my father died. Once on the night someone tried to kill me. Richard's hands were shaking now. "You can't prove that was me. Someone could have stolen my credentials." "Could they have stolen your voice too?" Victoria pressed play on another recording. Phone conversation. Richard's voice. "The job isn't done. I want Victoria Sterling and Marcus Jackson dead. I don't care how you do it. Make it look like an accident. And if you can't make it look accidental, then just make them disappear." Second voice. "What about the kid, Jackson's daughter?" Richard's response, casual as ordering coffee. "Use her as leverage. Take her if you have to. Whatever it takes to make them stop digging." The room erupted, board members shouting, journalists yelling questions, cameras flashing like lightning. Richard looked around wildly, saw the exits blocked by security, saw the board members' faces turning from confusion to rage to disgust. He was finished, and he knew it. Dr. Chen stood from the guest section. "I'd like to add my testimony to the record." Victoria nodded. "Dr. Alan Chen, cardiologist at Mount Sinai, former Marine Corps medical officer, please proceed." Chen opened his briefcase, pulled out a thick folder. "I've been researching CardioGuard device failures for the past 6 months. What I found is criminal negligence on a massive scale." He laid photos on the table, medical charts, death certificates. 47 documented device failures, 12 confirmed deaths. One of those deaths was Sarah Hayes, wife of Marcus Jackson. She died in childbirth 7 years ago when a CardioGuard monitor malfunctioned and delayed emergency response by 4 minutes. Chen looked directly at Richard. 4 minutes. That's how long it took for doctors to realize Sarah was bleeding out. 4 minutes because your defective device failed to alert them. 4 minutes that cost a woman her life and left a little girl without a mother. He placed Sarah's death certificate on the table. Photo attached. Beautiful woman with kind eyes. Forever frozen at age 29. Marcus felt something break inside his chest, seeing Sarah's face, hearing her death described clinically, knowing that Richard Crane's greed had killed her. And Sarah wasn't alone, Chen continued. David Martinez, age 47, heart attack victim who died because CardioGuard failed to call emergency services. Linda Kowalski, 62, stroke patient who received treatment too late because of device malfunction. I have names, dates, medical records, 47 failures, 12 deaths, all covered up by Sterling Medical under Richard Crane's direct orders. Chen's voice hardened. This isn't just corporate fraud. This is mass negligence. This is choosing profit over human lives. And every person in this room who knew about these failures and did nothing is complicit in murder. The board members looked sick. Some were crying, others sat in stunned silence. Richard made his move. He lunged for the door, desperate, panicked, but Marcus was faster. Marcus crossed the room in 3 strides, intercepted Richard before he reached the exit. Combat training, perfect execution. He grabbed Richard's arm, applied a control hold, and put him face first against the wall. "You're not going anywhere." Richard struggled. "Get your hands off me. You have no authority." "I have all the authority I need. Citizens arrest for conspiracy to commit murder." Security guards appeared in the doorway. Real security this time, not Richard's people, called by Tracy Chen, who'd alerted them 5 minutes before the meeting started. "Seattle police are on their way," one guard said. "ETA 3 minutes." Marcus held Richard against the wall, while the man who destroyed his life squirmed and cursed and threatened. "You can't prove anything. I'll fight this. I have the best lawyers in the country." Marcus leaned close, whispered in Richard's ear, "You killed my wife. You tried to kill my daughter. You destroyed my career and my life. And now I'm going to watch you spend the rest of your miserable existence in prison." Richard's face twisted with rage and fear. She was nobody, just another casualty, collateral damage. Marcus's control nearly broke, nearly let the rage take over, nearly forgot he was supposed to be civilized. But then he heard Victoria's voice, calm, strong. "Marcus, let the police handle him. He's not worth it." Marcus took a breath, released Richard to the security guards, stepped back. The police arrived, 4 officers. They'd been briefed by Victoria's lawyers who'd been waiting outside. They had warrants, had probable cause. "Richard Crane, you're under arrest for embezzlement, conspiracy to commit murder, and 12 counts of criminally negligent homicide." They read him his rights while Richard shouted about lawyers and lawsuits and conspiracies. The journalists recorded every second, every desperate protest, every moment of his fall from power. As the police led Richard away in handcuffs, he looked back at Marcus and Victoria. "This isn't over. You think you've won. I'll destroy you both. I'll destroy everything you care about." Marcus smiled, cold, humorless. "You already tried, you failed, now you're done." Richard Crane, CFO of Sterling Medical Devices, was led out of the boardroom in handcuffs while cameras flashed and journalists shouted questions. The man who'd killed 12 people and stolen $80 million. The man who'd murdered William Sterling. The man who destroyed Marcus's life and killed his wife. Finally brought to justice. Immediate aftermath. The boardroom cleared slowly. Board members huddled in shocked conversations. Journalists rushed out to file their stories. In 1 hour, this would be breaking news on every major network. Victoria sat alone at the head of the table, CEO of a company that had just been exposed for criminal negligence, daughter of a murdered man who tried to stop it, woman who'd nearly died twice trying to expose the truth. She looked exhausted, triumphant, broken, relieved all at once. Marcus sat down beside her. "You did good." "We did good." She looked at him, really looked. "I couldn't have done this without you. You know that, right? You would have found a way. You're stronger than you think." "So are you." They sat in comfortable silence while the last stragglers left the room. Dr. Chen approached, medical files still in hand. "I'm heading to the FBI field office. They want my full testimony. Might be a few days of depositions." Marcus stood, shook his hand. "Thank you, sir, for everything." "You earned this, Marcus. You and Sarah, she'd be proud." Chen left. Tracy appeared in the doorway, laptop bag over her shoulder. "Ms. Sterling, the press is downstairs. They want a statement." Victoria took a breath, straightened her jacket, became the CEO again. "Tell them I'll be down in 5 minutes." After Tracy left, Victoria turned to Marcus. "Come with me, for the press conference. You deserve to be recognized for what you did." "I don't need recognition. I need Zoe to be safe. Need to know Crane can't hurt her from prison." "He can't. The DA is charging him with attempted kidnapping too. He's looking at life without parole." Marcus closed his eyes, felt the weight of 3 years of grief and rage finally lifting. Not gone, it would never be gone, but lighter, manageable. What happens now to the company? Victoria looked around the boardroom, her father's legacy, now tainted by corruption and death. "We fix it. We recall every CardioGuard device. We compensate the families. We rebuild from the ground up. Make Sterling Medical what my father wanted it to be. A company that actually saves lives instead of destroying them. That'll cost hundreds of millions." "I don't care. Some things matter more than money." She stood, offered her hand. "Will you help me? Chief Medical Safety Officer. Your old position back, but with real authority this time. 6-figure salary, full benefits, and a guarantee that no one will ever silence you again." Marcus looked at her hand, at the woman who'd walked into his life 6 days ago and turned everything upside down. The woman who'd trusted him when she had no reason to, who'd fought beside him, who'd risked everything to expose the truth. The woman he was starting to care about more than he should. "I'll think about it." "Fair enough," she smiled, tired but genuine. "Come on, let's go face the cameras." The press conference was chaos, 50 journalists, a dozen cameras, questions shouted from every direction. Victoria handled it with grace. She confirmed Richard Crane's arrest, acknowledged the CardioGuard failures, announced a full recall and victim compensation fund, promised transparency and reform. "Sterling Medical failed our customers, failed the families who trusted our devices to save lives. That failure cost people their lives. Nothing I say today can undo that. But I promise you this. We will make it right. Every family affected will be compensated. Every device will be recalled. And we will rebuild this company on a foundation of integrity and transparency." A journalist raised her hand. "Ms. Sterling, is it true that Marcus Jackson, the man who exposed the fraud 3 years ago, is the one who helped you uncover this conspiracy?" Victoria looked at Marcus, standing in the back of the room, invisible again, comfortable in the shadows. "Yes, Marcus Jackson is a hero. He tried to stop these defective devices 3 years ago. Instead of listening to him, Richard Crane destroyed his career and his life. But Marcus never gave up, never stopped fighting for what was right. He's the reason we're standing here today. He's the reason Richard Crane is in custody. He's the reason justice is finally being served." Cameras turned to Marcus. He wanted to disappear, wanted to go back to being invisible. But Victoria wasn't finished. "I want to publicly apologize to Marcus Jackson. On behalf of Sterling Medical, on behalf of my father's memory, we failed you. We destroyed you when we should have listened. And I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry." Her voice broke on the last words, real emotion, real remorse. Marcus felt something shift inside him, the bitterness he'd carried for 3 years, the rage and grief and sense of injustice. It didn't disappear, but it transformed into something else, something that felt almost like forgiveness. The press conference ended. Marcus slipped out through a side door before the journalists could corner him, walked to his car in the parking garage, got halfway there before he heard footsteps behind him. Victoria, running in her heels, catching up. Marcus, wait. He turned. She was breathing hard, face flushed, hair coming loose from its perfect style. Thank you for everything, for saving my life, for helping me expose Crane, for giving me the courage to fight. You already had courage. You just needed someone to remind you. When this is all over, when the dust settles and the lawsuits are resolved and Sterling Medical is rebuilt, will you stay? Stay where? Here with me, with the company, with. She trailed off, couldn't quite say it. Marcus stepped closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in her blue eyes, close enough to smell her perfume. I don't know what happens next, Victoria. I've spent 3 years being invisible, being safe, being nobody. I don't know how to be someone again. Then learn with me. We'll figure it out together. She kissed him, quick, soft, a promise more than a declaration. Then she walked away, back to her world of board meetings and billion-dollar decisions, leaving Marcus standing alone in the parking garage with the ghost of her kiss on his lips and questions burning in his mind. What came next? Could he trust this? Could he let himself hope for something beyond survival? His phone buzzed, text from Lily's mother. Zoe was asking when he was coming to pick her up. Marcus smiled. Whatever came next, Zoe came first. Everything else was secondary. He drove to pick up his daughter, pulled her into his arms when she ran to him, held her tight and breathed in her strawberry shampoo and thanked God she was safe. Daddy, why are you crying? Happy tears, baby, just happy tears. Did you catch the bad man? Yes, he can't hurt us anymore. Good, can we get ice cream to celebrate? Marcus laughed, really laughed for the first time in years. Yeah, we can get ice cream. They sat in a small shop in Rainier Valley, eating chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream, and for 30 minutes Marcus just got to be dad. Not a warrior, not a victim, not a hero. Just a father with his daughter, safe, happy together. Justice SERVED. The weeks that followed blurred together in a cascade of legal proceedings and media attention. Richard Crane's trial became a national sensation. Cable news networks covered every day of testimony. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts. Embezzlement, conspiracy to commit murder, 12 counts of criminally negligent homicide, attempted murder, witness intimidation. The judge sentenced Richard Crane to life in prison without possibility of parole. As marshals led him away, he looked one last time at Marcus sitting in the courtroom gallery. Marcus stared back, said nothing, let the moment speak for itself. Justice finally, after 3 years of waiting, after Sarah's death, after everything. It was over. Tracy Chen was granted immunity in exchange for her testimony. She kept her job at Sterling Medical, now reporting directly to Victoria. The 2 junior researchers who testified against Marcus 3 years ago came forward with their own confessions. They'd been coerced, threatened, forced to lie. Their testimony helped seal Richard's fate. Marcus's name was officially cleared. The medical board issued a formal apology and offered to expedite his license restoration. But Marcus surprised everyone by declining. I don't want to practice medicine anymore, he told Dr. Chen over coffee one afternoon. That part of my life is over, but I can still make a difference, just in a different way. He accepted Victoria's offer, Chief Medical Safety Officer at Sterling Medical, not treating patients, but making sure devices were safe, making sure no other family would lose someone the way he'd lost Sarah. It felt right, like he'd found his purpose again. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the backyard of his new house, Watching Zoe play with the golden retriever puppy Victoria had surprised them with last month. The house wasn't the old one in Magnolia. It was different, smaller, but it was theirs. Victoria had helped him with the down payment, not a gift, a loan. Marcus insisted on paying her back even though she'd argued. He needed to do this himself, needed to prove he could rebuild his life without charity. The house had 4 bedrooms, one for him, one for Zoe, one for a home office, and one guest room that Victoria used more nights than not. They hadn't officially moved in together. Were taking things slow for Zoe's sake. But most evenings found the 3 of them around the dinner table, talking about their days, laughing at Zoe's stories from school, slowly becoming something that looked a lot like a family. Victoria emerged from the house carrying a pitcher of lemonade. She wore jeans and a t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup, no designer clothes, just herself. Marcus had never seen her more beautiful. "Penny for your thoughts," she said, settling into the chair beside him. "Just thinking about how much has changed in 6 months. Good changes or bad changes?" "Good, definitely good." Zoe ran over, the puppy bounding behind her. "Daddy, Ms. V, can we teach Charlie how to fetch?" "Charlie's a little young for that, baby. Maybe in a few months." "But I want to teach him now." Victoria laughed. "How about we just play with him in the yard? That's good exercise for puppies." Zoe considered this. "Okay, but you have to play too." She grabbed Victoria's hand and pulled her toward the lawn. Victoria looked back at Marcus, mouthed, "Help me," with mock desperation. Marcus grinned and followed. They spent an hour playing with the puppy, rolling in the grass, laughing until their sides hurt. Simple, perfect, the kind of moment Marcus had thought he'd never have again after Sarah died. Later, after Zoe was in bed and the puppy was asleep in his crate, Marcus and Victoria sat on the back porch watching the sunset. "I have something to tell you," Victoria said. "The board approved my proposal. We're starting a foundation, the William Sterling Memorial Fund for Medical Safety. $100 million dedicated to improving device safety standards across the industry." "That's incredible. And I want you to run it. You'd still keep your position at Sterling Medical, but this would be yours, your legacy. Making sure what happened to Sarah, what happened to all those families, never happens again." Marcus stared at her. "That's too much, I can't." "Yes, you can. You're the only person I trust to do this right, the only person who understands what's at stake." He thought about Sarah, about the 47 failures, about the families who'd lost loved ones because of corporate greed. "Okay, I'll do it." Victoria smiled, set down her wine glass. "I have something else to say, and you can say no. You can tell me it's too fast, too much, but I need to say it anyway." She took his hand. "Marcus, I love you, I love Zoe, I love the life we're building together, and I know it's only been 6 months. I know we said we'd take it slow, but I don't want to wait anymore. I want this, all of it. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to put Zoe to bed every night. I want to build a family with you." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Victoria." "You don't have to answer now, just think about it. Think about what we could be, what we could build together." He pulled her close, kissed her, deep and meaningful and full of promise. "I don't need to think about it, I already know. Yes, to all of it, to building a life together, to being a family, to whatever comes next." "Really? Really?" They kissed again, and in that moment Marcus felt Sarah's presence. Not haunting, not holding him back, blessing this, approving, telling him it was okay to love again, to live again. "Thank you," he thought, "for giving me Zoe, for teaching me how to love, for everything. I'll never forget you, but I have to move forward now." And somehow he knew she understood. 1 year after the wedding, the ballroom of the Fairmont Olympic Hotel glittered with 300 guests, white flowers, string quartet, candles everywhere. Seattle's most beautiful venue transformed into something magical. Marcus stood at the altar in his Marine dress uniform, medals on his chest, Dr. Chen beside him as best man, Zoe on his other side in a lavender flower girl dress, holding the rings, barely containing her excitement. The music swelled. Victoria appeared at the back of the ballroom, and Marcus forgot how to breathe. She wore a simple white dress, elegant, timeless. Her hair was down, flowing over her shoulders. She carried a bouquet of white roses. She smiled at him with such joy, such love, that Marcus felt his eyes sting with tears. Dr. Chen walked her down the aisle, at Marcus's side when William Sterling couldn't. "Who gives this woman to be married to this man?" the officiant asked. "Her father in spirit and all who loved him," Chen said. He placed Victoria's hand in Marcus's and stepped back. The ceremony was short, traditional. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. "Marcus, Victoria, you saved my life in ways you'll never fully understand. You gave me hope when I had none, purpose when I'd lost mine, love when I thought I'd never feel it again. I promise to protect you, honor you, love you for all my days." "Victoria, Marcus, you're the strongest man I've ever known, not because of what you survived, but because of how you survived it, with grace, with integrity, with love. You taught me what really matters, and I promise to spend every day being worthy of that lesson. I love you." They exchanged rings. Zoe handed them over with exaggerated care, then gave them both a thumbs up that made the crowd laugh. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Marcus pulled Victoria close and kissed her as 300 people cheered. Zoe jumped up and down squealing. The photographer captured it all. Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, a family finally, officially. The reception was a blur of congratulations and dancing and laughter. Marcus's first dance with Victoria. Then his father-daughter dance with Zoe, who stood on his feet while he waltzed her around the floor. "Daddy, are you happy?" she whispered. "Happier than I ever thought I'd be again, baby girl." "Me too, we're a real family now." "We always were, now it's just official." Speeches, toasts, Dr. Chen telling embarrassing Marine stories, Tracy reading a letter that William Sterling had written to Victoria years ago, found in his office after he died. "Find someone who makes you want to be better, someone who sees the best in you, someone who fights for what's right, no matter the cost." William had been describing Marcus before they'd ever met. As the evening wound down, Marcus and Victoria stood on the hotel's rooftop terrace, overlooking Seattle's lights, alone for the first time all day. "Happy?" she asked. "Happier than I ever thought I'd be again." "Me too." They stood together, holding hands, watching their city. Two broken people who'd found each other in darkness, who'd fought together, healed together, built something new from the ruins of their old lives. "I have one more surprise," Victoria said. She pulled an envelope from her bouquet. "Open it." Marcus opened the envelope. Inside was a check, made out to Marcus Jackson, $2.5 million. "What is this?" "Settlement from Sterling Medical, for wrongful termination, defamation, and the role our equipment played in Sarah's death. The board approved it unanimously. It's not enough. Nothing could ever be enough, but it's something." Marcus stared at the check. $2.5 million, more money than he'd make in a lifetime. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can. Use it for Zoe's education, for the foundation, For whatever you want, but take it. You earned it. You deserve it. Marcus folded the check, put it in his pocket. Thank you. Thank you for everything, for fighting, for believing, for loving me even when you thought you couldn't love again. They kissed as fireworks exploded over Elliott Bay. The hotel had arranged a private show. Red and gold lights painted the sky, reflecting off the water, beautiful and temporary and perfect. In the ballroom below, Zoe pressed her face against the window, watching the fireworks, clapping her hands with delight. Her father and her new mother on the rooftop. Her family complete. 3 years ago, Marcus had lost everything, had become invisible, had given up on ever being whole again. Today, he had everything that mattered. A daughter who loved him, a wife who believed in him, a purpose that honored Sarah's memory and saved lives, a future bright with possibility. Richard Crane had tried to destroy him, had taken his career, his reputation, his wife, had tried to break him completely. He'd failed. Because you can't destroy a man who knows his worth, can't break someone who refuses to give up, can't erase someone whose purpose is bigger than any individual's hate. Marcus Jackson had been invisible for 3 years, but he'd never been gone. He'd been waiting, rebuilding, growing stronger in the darkness. And when the moment came, when justice needed a warrior, he'd been ready. The fireworks ended. The night grew quiet. Marcus and Victoria walked back inside, back to their wedding reception, back to Zoe and their guests and their new life together. As they entered the ballroom, Zoe ran to them, threw her arms around both their waists. "Best day ever," she announced. Marcus picked her up, Victoria on one side, Zoe on the other. A family complete. "Yeah, baby girl," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Best day ever." And for the first time since Sarah died, Marcus Jackson felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Peace, hope, joy. Home. Not the house in Magnolia, not the office at Sterling Medical, not any physical place. Home was this, these two people, this love, this second chance at happiness. Home was choosing to live again after you thought life was over. Home was believing that broken things could be made whole. Home was understanding that endings weren't always endings. Sometimes they were beginnings in disguise. Marcus had spent 3 years in the wilderness, 3 years invisible, 3 years certain his story was over. He'd been wrong. His story wasn't over, it was just beginning. And this time, he wouldn't be writing it alone. This time he had a family, a purpose, a future. This time he was free. And that, Marcus thought as he held his wife and daughter close, while 300 people celebrated around them. That was everything. That was enough. That was more than enough. That was home.